Kash Siddiqi, I like to say I'm a footballer, but I think I'm a former footballer now and becoming a football diplomat. So Football for Peace is a philanthropic organisation which is at the forefront of really trying to serve the world beyond the field, really trying to address social and environmental issues and really trying to unlock the power of football and bringing the awareness of 3.5 billion people to the most pressing issues that are facing both people and planet today, Jeremy. I think diversity and inclusion are one of the key things that are fundamental to Football for Peace, to the football community as a wholesome. I think clubs, players, organisations have got such a huge contribution to be making to this stage. And a continued effort in some of the issues that we're facing collectively in 2020 and 2021 and moving forward. So I think it has to be definitely a collective of anyone within the football world to be contributing to this space. Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. I face racism in many different ways and forms. I've seen institutional racism. I've seen, racism on the football pitch. I've seen racism in the community, but myself individually. It's been difficult for me as a young South Asian footballer coming through the ranks, firsthand experiencing it, but also further being a young Muslim footballer coming through as a South Asian has been difficult as well. I think personally, racism is like cancer. It eats away from you from the inside. It's something you can't touch or feel, and sometimes it's like fighting ghosts. It can dehumanize you, make you feel useless and worthless. But I think where I found the best way to fight and combat it is really inside the team environment. I've had messages, and this is one of the reasons I came off social media in the early days of when I was at Northampton Football Club, where fans were actually tweeting that we can't wait to see this Pakistani Muslim footballer throwing bombs down the wing. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that not much was done about it upset me at the time, but it's amazing how much work is being done now and how other organisations are taking it seriously. When clubs don't act, then other people are stepping in. I think, as I mentioned, I think a lot of the attitudes are shaped when we're young. Our family members, friends express racist or opinions. It's common that sometimes that we find ourselves trying to almost think that those views are okay. The problem is that unless we do something about it, it can stay with you for a whole lifetime. I think the environment that we grow up in, I think it's normal to spend time with people that have same interests, background, culture, and language. But at the same time, it's you have to try and find. You have to find those moments where, if in the environment that you're in is causing you, it's almost kind of questioning it. And so I think that's very difficult because you have to find your own self-belonging and those differences between other groups. And sometimes that leads us to think other than other groups. Well, I think it's not just for myself. I think players alike, the wider football community coming together to openly discussing these pressing issues. The fact that Peace One Day is now raising awareness of this day is equally important to have this conversation. The fact that this is being, transferred into different aspects of whether it's sports, whether it's music, I think it's very, very important. And I think for me, it's, as you know, I'm a huge advocate in this kind of space, and whether that's equality, climate, environment. I think all of these things need to be discussed, need to be brought to the forefront. And a time that we're living in today, a day and age that my mother herself has faced this discrimination, coming over as a refugee from Uganda to Idi Amin's time. And for me, it's something that is in my DNA to fight against for justice and peace. I think governing bodies are definitely doing what they can do. And I've spoken about it openly. However, I think it needs to be a collective effort and in conjunction with other organizations. Obviously, it's been talked about a lot in the press recently with the tech companies. Racism is destroying unity. is destroying community confidence, and most importantly, is reinforcing passive acceptance of the effects of racism. And unless people can come together, and organizations such as governing bodies and the tech companies, I think that's when we're going to have the biggest difference. And at this stage, I feel that governing bodies potentially have their hands tied on what they can do, because now social media has taken this fight to a whole different stage. And sometimes you're fighting racism and you can't even see it. It's like chasing ghosts. And I think this is something that is a little bit beyond just governing bodies and what individual players can do to combat racism. I actually think it's really simple. If you start thinking of others before yourself, imagine if we all did that, I think we can make a tremendous ripple effect. And I think those ripple changes will make a huge difference. And I think it really starts, as you've asked the question, what can individuals do? I think individuals need to is looking at yourself internally and making it so simple, because sometimes we make these things so complicated. It's really not. I think the ripple change is what we need.